So I just got my Delta 3 Pro, and combined with my Delta 2 Max, running completely separate. I'm going to kind of walk through my system here. So there's my one transfer switch number 2, that uses only 2 circuits and 2 are spares. Here's my 10 circuit Reliance transfer switch that does plug into my Delta 3 Pro and runs some of the big dogs, my well pump, my sump, my freezer, my downstairs freezer, some lights, microwave, Wi-Fi, just some things that this is one of the key reasons why the Delta 3 Pro is fantastic, is that 240 volt that the well pump requires, that's able to utilize this guy right here. So real simple to install. The 4 circuit I use primarily just for some upstairs lightings for my daughter's bedroom. It's got the 120 in there, and 2 additional circuits for some things that I could add as we learn and go. But again, this is the big one here. I also have a little adapter here, so in the worst case scenario I needed to run the Delta 2 Max, I can go ahead and plug it into this 10 circuit Reliance transfer switch and run everything outside of my well pump. I got some instructions kind of written here in the event that I'm not home and the power goes out. Just kind of some instructions like, here, unplug this one right here from step 1, and all that basically does is says, hey, before you run your Reliance circuits, there's one particular circuit number 38, which basically is what I'm using house power for to currently charge these guys. So I want whoever to unplug it so that when they flip the circuits, the deltas are not using its own power to charge themselves. I also have these 2 extension cords that are hanging from the ceiling that for the gas generator, I got 2 separate circuits, so I can go ahead and charge the Delta 2 and the Delta 3 at the same time at full capacity, with some instructions to grab this adapter right here, plug it into the 30 amp, and run that to the Delta 3 Pro, and then the other line to the Delta 2 Max, and a little bit more instruction to make sure that that we switch the deltas to fast charge, because as of right now I have them on slow charge so that they're not eating so much during a trickle. I have them set to like 500 watts a piece so that I can have them on one circuit and it's not overloading a circuit. Fast charge will trip the breaker out. But on the Champion inverter that I have outside on the gas generator, it will be able to handle a fast charge on both the Delta 2 and the Delta 3. A little bit more instruction here at night, 9 or 10. Unplug the freezer, unplug the fridge, or just turn the circuits off on the transfer switch 1. Just really trying to give my family some instruction in the event that I'm not here. I got the plug here that basically says, hey, when the power goes out, as a part of one of the steps, plug transfer switch 2 to Delta 2. It's already plugged in and kind of routed across my workbench here, and then I have it hung on this little fitting right there, and then a instruction here, plug it in here when the power's out. So really trying to make this dummy proof for my family. One of the cool things that I was able to do, and I understand code requirements and such, but this is not plugged into utility or line side feed. It's just a dead extension cord that's not plugged into anything on the other side, only to be used in the event of an emergency. So we have this old central vac unit that we never use since we bought the house. We never planned on using it. I just was lazy and never took it out. But as I was trying to think of how do I get power from the garage to my basement so I can run the generator and just have it plugged in to a stationary Delta without having to move it around. So in here, I got some instructions here as well. Unplug both and plug these into these orange cords here, and then it pretty much routes, you can see it here, through here and up through the tube that I cut that was once used for my central vac, now going out into the garage. And that's routed all the way to the front of the garage with enough length to easily just unspool it from the front of the garage to the generator and power my Deltas in the event that solar is not producing. I also have circuits for solar. I still have to finish up. I am waiting for a couple more pieces here, but the garage is done, and basically from the garage, you can see it goes up and follows it through, and eventually goes through the same central vac tube out to the garage. And what I do there is I installed a junction box on both the passenger side and the driver's side of the garage door, right at the opening, that has two pigtails sticking out of the junction box on both sides, with two dedicated cables from right here. And I labeled everything like GDS and GDP going down to the Delta 2, and then I junction the charging end, which is something like this. It's GDS, which is the driver's side. That's what I labeled the driver's side junction box that has the pigtails for the solar panels. And that would get plugged into what I'm using the garage for is the Delta 2s. There's sun there, but not as much sun as where the Delta 3s come in, which I am routing to the southeast side of my house. And how I'm routing that is up and over, and I pretty much walk the entire length of my basement. I have a junction right there, and if you follow those cables along, I pretty much do something where I junction here and then head outside. I drilled a couple holes in the old window. If we ever have to replace it, it's not a worry. I can always unwire and do some things there. But it goes through outside to a waterproof junction box with pigtails, just like I was showing, coming out of them, totally sealed, so that in the event, and it's two dedicated circuits, so that in the event of a power outage, I can just grab a 20-foot spool, a couple 20-foot spools, plug them into the pigtails, and plug them into my portable 400-watt array solar panels. With the Delta 3 Pro, I'm allowed to, on one of the high voltage plugs, put a series of three 400-watt arrays in, which is acceptable for a potential of 1,200 watts in one of the plugs, the high voltage plug, and another 400 watt in what they call the low voltage plug that will allow me to get an additional 400 watts there. So I'm dedicating that side of my house to the Delta 3 Pro, since this is the beast that's going to be doing most of the legwork. These Delta 3 Pros, approximately 4,000 watt capacity on the Delta 3 Pro itself, but I did get the additional battery that doubles that for me. So between the Delta 3 Pro and the Delta 2 Max, I have somewhere around 8,200 watts of power available to me. I'm sorry, no, 10,200. Wow. I believe the Delta 2 Max has like 2,200 watts available. I'm well in that 10,000 watt range. I don't have the exact numbers. So what I'm going to do here, and what I already did here is this is for what I call SO1S and SO2E. Those are the two dedicated lines that go to the southeast part of my house. And once I get the small solar cables that have the charging end for the deltas, is that I cut the pigtails, the solar charging that goes to the panels. I cut those off, so I just have the charging end, and then I splice it together here using these Wagos, bring it through, and then I label it, and then I plug it in to the back of the unit. So again, it looks like something like this that comes out of the box like that. So once I do that, then I will plug them in directly, keep them plugged in, and I do have a rule that the SO1S is the only one that has the ability to be wired in series. It's a rule. Never plug any more than a 400 watt array into SO2E. It can only do a 400 watt. It can do more, but for the sake of protecting the Delta 3, I just made a rule that only anything labeled S is something that I would be able to do in series, so to protect it. The installation of this was pretty easy. The instructions were very clear, just getting the wires into the panel, and everything's pre-labeled for you. You just kill the feed and make sure to put a tester on everything. Nothing's live in there. And you take the wire out of the breaker, you put the red wire in its place, and then you just connect the black wire that comes out of the transfer switch to the wire you took out of the breaker, and it's good to go. We tested this out a number of times, and it works great. We used, without much conserving, about 7,500 to 8,000 watts in the day in a full 24-hour cycle. But again, it wasn't, we conserved a little bit, but we also didn't go crazy with it. We shut the freezer off for a little bit, but we put the lights on as much as we wanted to. We watched TV. We ran the well pump as much as we wanted, and we didn't conserve there. In fact, I kept the fridge and the freezer on all night. I kept the furnace on at 64 degrees all night. And that was before I got this additional battery. I did wake up, before I got this battery, to a 17% charge on my Delta 3 Pro and like a 10% charge on my Delta 2 Max. Turns out that my girls like to sleep with their light on, so that really ate into some things on a 2,400 watt capacity here at you go 8 to 10 hours with a couple lights on. It really kind of drains it. At some point, just trying to manage my generator, I didn't want my gas generator charging too late at night, so once I hit a threshold, it's like, all right, well, let's just see what it can do. We were just doing a mock trial anyway, so I think my last gas charge was at around 6:30 p.m., and we made it through the night, but just barely. I definitely would have needed to gas charge it again at around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, but now I got this additional battery, and that should be no problem getting us through the night, even if my last gas charge was at around 5, 6 o'clock. The hope being, and I know Wisconsin winters, that with some good sun, if I can get 4,000 to 5,000 watts in a day, that would be great. I think that we would be able to conserve to 5,000, cut some TV time out, and even at that, I always store like 20 gallons of gas, so we'd easily be able to go off of 30 days, even with no solar, just off the gasoline alone and a little bit of conserving. So it's a pretty good deal, pretty good investment. I'm very happy with it. I'm not an extremely knowledgeable, handy guy, so the fact that I was able to come up with something and do something with this is pretty impressive to me. So this is my little setup, and pretty happy with it.